Hello, everyone. We are back talking about mid-age women. So the thing is, I know myself at that time, you start introspecting and thinking of, what is it that you've done in your life? You think of soul, all these spirituality comes into being. And that's what we want to talk about with Debs. Debs is a midlife women mentor who works with soul as well as body. Thank you so much and namaste.
Namaste, Amita. Thank you for allowing me.
Absolutely. So I want to start off with the question, and of course, tell us a little bit about yourself. But why do women start questioning ourselves? Why do we start questioning ourselves when we start in our 40s? What is the reason? What happens?
I'll share from my perspective. It's part of a natural process. That's the first thing. But of course, the way we set our lives up in the first 45 years of our life very often feels like, right, I did it. I've got the business going. Maybe I've had children. Maybe I've got a partner. I'm going here. And that's to do, if you like, with our biochemistry. It's to do with nature's expectation and remit for us. But that's not her total, or it's not the total expectation for a woman's life. And I think we could talk about societal and cultural influences and all of that. But actually, what's happening is a very magical process. It's not pleasant necessarily, it's messy. But as a woman's estrogen levels start to fall, at the same time, on the subtle levels, shall we say, depending on your take on it, in the quantum, in the koshas, other things are beginning to happen that want to come up. So nature is not saying, I'm going to throw you away because you've got not enough estrogen. She's actually got replacements. There is a natural process, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's a very dramatic way that the estrogen drops. It doesn't happen in the same way for men with testosterone. It's a much longer process. And the technology that's moving behind the scenes has actually already begun by the time we're 41 or 42. And in some cultures, and I believe in history, women would have had all this information: menstrual information, pregnancy, conception, contraception, and they'd also understood the emotional passages that we go through. So midlife, if you like, is definitely a point of introspection, reflection. It's a point at which a woman is called to look at her time and space, her boundaries, to make sure that the next generation are prepared for their steps into adulthood so that she's not carrying everything. And to start to pay attention to what fills her life, what interests her, what fills with joy, where she naturally might have wanted to go when she was 15 or 16, and maybe has had to put to one side. Now, so there are physical implications, emotional and psychological ones. But if you don't mind, I'll talk about the soul and what I mean by that. So in this hormonal shift, estrogen's dipping, progesterone's dipping, there's a technology running, and depending again on your take, I won't use lots of words because there's just, that nature is providing something else. But it also means in that process of a woman letting go of certain things, roles, beliefs, perhaps, ideas. And this can be very unsettling. But what's happening is the biochemical body is trying to reconfigure or recalibrate so that we become the woman who can embody the next level of her soul's expression. And that means a shift in what I call, when I look at a woman's soul energy body, I can see there are unique archetypes there waiting to be expressed through her physical life. She may not be able to see them because she's been told, this is what you look like now for the rest of your life. You're a mom or you're a grandma, but very often in women, there's this sense of there's something else. And she may think, well, perhaps I'm being greedy or deluded. But it's not about greed or delusion. It's about naturally knowing that all humans are born to expand. There is always more. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be travel. It's something that is uniquely you. So that's what the physical body is in recalibration, in part to allow, and I'm going to say the frequency of the soul to to become embodied, which happens through a biochemistry. So you're talking to me and I'm 66, right? And I am not the woman I was at 46. I think my heart's very similar, but in no way am I doing the same things, hanging with the same. I'm not saying everybody has to have a radical change, but I feel in tune with my soul now in a way I never did before.
I think that's beautiful. Most of the women go through that. You know, there's a famous book, right? Eat, Pray, Love, and that's also what that talks about. That she suddenly goes into India and Bali and what was the third place? I forget. Italy. Yes.
Italy, yeah.
Yes, yes, and she tries to discover herself, and then she comes back to US, and now she's writing books, and you know all those things happen. So the soul healing, talk to me a little bit about that, because there could be a past trauma, you know, that women have gone through, and they've never been able to have had the courage to you know, to bring it out. Look what happened in the Me Too movement. Women were coming out after 20 years. Talk to me why women don't come out, and then suddenly in 40s the soul healing concept becomes very important.
I'd love to talk to you. So in brief, there's an aspect of our soul which has been carrying a distortion. Many people call it a wound. That's okay. It's just a part of us that has held us in a particular situation, mentally and psychologically. And it's the part that if we don't pay attention to, we'll keep replaying. So we'll end up thinking, oh, I'm not here again. It becomes very activated between the ages of 48 and 52 because the astrology of it, which is a component of us, comes back into full view, comes back into what they call the natal position. So it's as though it's kind of going, hey, pay attention, pay attention. Now, if a woman doesn't know about this, one of the dangers is that she's going to think, oh, that's not me. I'll never do that. Because she's very tied up in her old identity, which includes this pain point. So maybe she's never thought I'd have the courage to travel on my own or to write a book. And she will say things, well, that's not me. And that's a clear indication to me that there's something in the way. Now, her soul, whatever her soul's energy format is, needs us to work through our own limitation. Whether we're going to bake muffins or just lie on a beach, that doesn't matter. We have a limitation and we have an opportunity in this lifetime to work beyond that boundary.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the tools women can use for soul healing. There are so many Reiki, so many tools, right? And most of the women don't even know where to start. So that's something that I think I would love to know as well.
I think that's a great question. One of my very practical, so I've had 30 years as a business skills and personal trainer, as well as 20 odd years as an energy worker. And what I've noticed is until you've identified the problem as accurately as possible, it's not wise to go running off just throwing spaghetti at the wall. You know, Reiki is going to raise your frequency. I'm a Reiki master, I can say that. A number of modalities are going to appeal to you, and none of them is wrong or right. They're part of a woman's journey and experience. However, I'm practical. I'd say if it was me, I'd have a consultation, which would be partly psychic and partly very physical, to really pinpoint where in her life something isn't working, right? What's not happening that you really secretly even want to happen? Because there's the first clue. The second way I'd look at that is to look at her astrology actually and see where Chiron is in her chart, both natally, in the heavens when she was born, and also, very importantly, where in the house. Because she might be doing great in 4 areas and kind of minimizing the 5th area. And there's Chiron going, no, you need to work on me. I think there's lots of helpful things, but that piece of information changed my life. So I know where my Chiron's active. I know what it feels like. Now I've recognized it's like, oh, that is me. But instead of doing what I used to do, which would be hang back, be quiet, not express my opinion, not be in groups, maybe as a teacher, yeah, but not in a group, I recognize that's the place I have to go to overcome my shortcoming. So that piece of information, as I say, was life-changing, because we've got to do something practical. Running energy alone can often become quite confusing because we get huge shifts in frequency, but they can make us more confused. So it's a combination for me, practical steps and spiritual healing.
Okay, so you talked about talking to someone who's a psychic as well as someone who can help you with the physical, and it's very difficult to find these kind of experts who understands the both, right? I mean, people like you understand the both because the way you explain the estrogen and also the psychic part. So and talk to us how Reiki works, because Reiki is something and energy, or talk to us about some of the energy modalities that can help women through going through this phase.
Of course. Again, I'd say when physical things need fixing, go and talk to somebody who knows. So if you're not sleeping, if your energy work can sometimes make these things more intense. So I'm bringing this with a caveat. I'm a transference healer now. I trained in Reiki originally, but I'll explain in general how I see it. So our universe, which is vast, as we know, is essentially energy in movement, whether we're seeing that as light or hearing it as sound, whether we see it as atomic or subatomic, we talk about energy. And we all need energy, right? And it needs to be aligned energy. And when a practitioner like me runs energy, all we're doing really is bringing a particular attunement to, like, a television program. So if I was a TV set, you'd tune me to this. And because I've been through my own process, I'm like the cord and the plug that you put in. And with Reiki, we work very much on the endocrine system, bringing higher frequencies in to help it to calibrate to its most natural pattern, you could say, its highest pattern. With transference, we go a lot deeper. We work from the chakras right out to something called the light body. And it's a little bit like tuning a musical instrument. So if a part of your organs are out of tune, we say it in a language, don't we? Somebody's feeling off color or off song. There are pieces of your anatomy, your subtle anatomy, where there are meridian points that cross. They can get misaligned. They can get out of, if it's supposed to be a high C, it's supposed to be a high C. So an energy worker is trained, or at least in my practice, to systematically work through these levels and reattune them. Now that then is going to create a change in your physical life, right? And that's where we need to hold the change. Embodiment means that. It means your cells have got to also hold that.
All right, well, thank you so much. This is a quick 10-15 minute session that we bring on a daily basis. We're also launching programs helping with the mid-age women's journey. Debs explained it so beautifully, how the physical and the soul is changing when the shift is happening when we reach there, and it's not something that is a mystery. We know the estrogen and the progesterone, when it's going down, how it's shifting our brain waves as well. So anything else you'd like to say before I wrap up today? This is a very beautiful session. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like anybody who's listening to have confidence in nature. She's not stupid. You're in a process. You may have problems to sort out along the way, but don't rush into thinking there's something broken with you. instead, just, as you said, just step back a little bit and start to think about some things I've said. I always say the first thing to look at is, are you protecting your time and your space? If you're leaking energy, that needs fixing first before you run anything else. So
please share your website or anything else you'd like to share if someone wants to get in touch with you. I will be putting the details as well.
All right, I'm just going to tap it into the chat as well while I'm talking. So my name is Debs de Vries. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, and my website is debsdevries.com, and you spell it DEBS for sugar, DEV for Victor, RIES, debsdevries.com. I've got YouTube. You can find me in lots of places. If you go on my website, there's a contact me button where you can just have a chat with me. Absolutely, my mission is to touch women and to give them at least the next step. Some work with me, some don't, doesn't matter. Feel free.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we will be posting all this information as well. Thank you for joining me today. And it's such a beautiful session. To everyone, keep supporting us because we want to help you empower yourself. Thank you. Bye-bye.